you believe that it's a kidnapping conspiracy and not a escaping attempt by Mr. Mehul Choksi?
Thank you. When you look at all the circumstances in this case, it becomes very clear about what's happened with Mr. Choksi. Mr. Choksi was living in Antigua, a place where he had legal protection. He could have taken his case all the way to the Privy Council in London, and for him to be spirited away, kidnapped, and taken to Dominica, it really means he doesn't have this right anymore. There has been a lot of propaganda which has been put out there stating, oh, maybe he escaped himself, maybe he was on his way to Cuba, which becomes ridiculous, especially when you look at a map of the Caribbean and the location of the different islands in the Caribbean as well. All the circumstances in this case demonstrate that what's happened is the Indian government wants Mr. Choksi. There were proceedings in Antigua for him to be extradited to India. These were ongoing. These are thought to be lasting at least for another 5 or 6 years. And for that reason, he's been taken from Antigua, kidnapped, beaten, and taken into Dominica.
The allegation made by you against several people, suspects involved in this kidnapping of Mr. Choksi, all have denied the charges made by you, sir.
Well, it's not surprising that they do in this case. But what we have the exact evidence of movements of people in this case, and I can tell you exactly what we say happened. So in this case, there was an earlier trip in April where the same girl, she traveled to Antigua. She flew from there to Dominica with one of the other individuals involved, a Caribbean national. At the time when she was in Dominica, the two men who were later on the ship which kidnapped Mr. Choksi in May arrived in Dominica by boat, but weren't allowed entry to Dominica at that time. And they left exactly the same way that they did when the kidnap happened in May. In May, what's happened here is he's been lured over to another side of the island by the same woman. He's gone into a property there. He's been attacked by people staying in the villa next door. And there's 2 villas which have been rented in this operation. And he's been taken into Dominica against his will. All the evidence shows this. You would have seen communications with the Airbnb host beforehand by the same woman asking for a property with boat access. So any statement from them that they're not involved in this needs to be looked at with consideration of all the evidence in this case.
And sir, so if you have sufficient evidence of kidnapping charges, why do Dominica police have lodged a FIR case of illegal entry, not for kidnapping case, sir?
Well, we say what's happened here is the Dominica Coast Guard has been there to pick him up when he's been brought into Dominica. He's been taken by the police, by the chief of police, into custody. He's been kept away from lawyers for a number of days. We say what the plan was in Dominica was to get him to India without any of the legal processes taking place in Dominica, to whisk him away. But luckily, the local lawyers managed to see him and get an account from him. But they were prevented from doing this. But you don't have to take my word for it, because leaked reports from the Antiguan police, Inspector Adonis Naba Henry of Antigua says this: based on the information gleaned thus far in this investigation, to include witness statements and ascertained facts, it appears Mr. Choksi's claims bear some credence that he was indeed abducted from the state of Antigua and Barbuda on Sunday, May 23rd, 2021. Inspector Henry then goes on to look at some of the individuals involved and their suspicious behavior in Antigua. So you don't need to take my word for it. That's from the leaked report by Inspector Adonis Naba Henry of Antigua Police.
Sir, how does you see whole episode of Mehul Choksi missing, kidnapping or escaping attempt now founding in Dominica, how this whole episode affect Mr. Choksi's ongoing cases in Antigua?
What we say should happen is that as an Antiguan citizen, he should be sent straight back to Antigua, where he has ongoing cases, where he's a citizen there, and where he's been kidnapped from. Anything else makes a mockery of the justice systems of the Caribbean. You shouldn't be able to use brute force to kidnap someone and take them away from where they have legal proceedings.
But sir, we have seen a lot of political statement from the PM of Antigua who do not want Choksi back in Antigua. How do you see these statements affect the Antigua citizen investment program, sir?
Well, in regards to the investment program, Mr. Choksi was an Antiguan citizen, and it's important for the Antiguans not to create different categories of citizenship. He took up Antiguan citizenship. He should have all the rights as an Antiguan citizen. And we say it's not for the Prime Minister of Antigua to make that decision. It's Mr. Choksi is a citizen. He can return to Antigua, where he has protection under the courts there. So any statement by the Prime Minister of Antigua is very unhelpful. But we say what should happen for Dominica is he should be removed back to Antigua, from where he's been kidnapped.
Sir, you are continuously in touch with the family of Mr. Mehul Choksi. Have they asked for any Antigua police for an investigation report?
That's a good question. We've been asking for the Antigua police report to be released to the family, and for some reason that hasn't taken place. You've heard me quote from a leaked report, which has been leaked to the Indian media, which does support what Mr. Choksi is saying about being kidnapped and taken into Dominica.
Sir, Indians from India, two authorities have approached Dominica court. They are claiming that he's still an Indian and his claim of renouncing Indian citizenship are bogus only.
Well, we think that the involvement of the Indian authorities in the Dominican court process is unfortunate. We think Dominica court system should stand up against the executive of Dominica. I've spoken to lots of Dominican people and they're very upset about what's happening in Dominica. They are upset about the international attention which has been brought to their country, and they find it quite embarrassing that their country is being used as part of this enterprise to spirit someone away from Antigua to Dominica. So the people there are very upset about it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for talking to us, sir.
Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें, और हाँ, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए News24।